When I saw the help wanted night clerk needed sign taped to the cracked window of the Redwood Motel, I knew it was my shot. I was broke, 2 months behind on rent, and one bad day away from living in my car. The pay was crap, but the ad promised free room, flexible hours, low responsibility. That sounded like heaven. The motel sat on the edge of town, off Highway 61, just past the old lumber mill. Locals avoided it. They said it was cursed, haunted, that people who stayed in room 6 never checked out. But I didn't believe in ghost stories. I believed in needing money. When I walked into the front office, it smelled like dust and burnt coffee. The man behind the counter didn't look up right away. He was writing something, long, careful strokes on yellowed paper. "You here for the job?" he asked without glancing up. "Yeah," I replied. "I can start tonight." He nodded slowly and finally looked at me. His eyes were pale gray, almost silver. He slid the paper across the counter. "Read these rules. Follow them exactly. No exceptions." There were 10 of them, written in neat, slanted handwriting. Night clerk protocol. Redwood Motel. Never leave the office after 12 a.m. If the phone rings between 1 and 2 a.m., do not answer it. Let it ring. At 2:15 a.m., you must knock 3 times on room 3's door. If someone answers, walk away immediately. If you hear knocking at the office door and no one is visible on the camera, do not open it. Leave a key on the desk at exactly 3 a.m. Take no key from the tray. At 3:33 a.m., a guest may enter asking for room 6. Tell them it's under renovation, even if it isn't, especially if it isn't. Do not fall asleep at the desk, ever. If a guest checks out before dawn with a bleeding hand, do not acknowledge it. Simply wish them a good day. Lights may flicker. This is normal. Do not try to fix them. If you reach dawn and all 10 rules have been followed, you may take the envelope taped beneath the drawer. I looked up, trying to laugh it off. "Is this a prank?" The man didn't smile. "Last clerk didn't follow them. You want the job or not?" I hesitated. I needed money. One night couldn't be that bad. "I'm in," I said. He handed me an old key. "Room 1 is yours. Sleep during the day. Clock in at 10 p.m. sharp." As I walked out, I glanced at the camera feed above the counter. One monitor showed the parking lot. Another showed a long hallway. Room 6's door was wide open. I should have walked away then. My first official night shift began quietly. I took the desk at 10 p.m. sharp, as instructed. The man who hired me, he never told me his name, was gone by 9:59. Not a goodbye, not a warning, just gone. The office itself was old but functional. One computer that didn't connect to the internet. A coffee machine that sputtered more steam than liquid. 3 cameras on grainy CRT monitors. Room keys hanging in dusty rows behind the desk. Except room 6, its hook was empty. For the first hour, nothing happened. Around 11:30 p.m., I started thinking maybe the rules were just a weird hazing ritual. Maybe the old man wanted to scare me off so I'd take the job seriously. Then at 11:57 p.m., the lights flickered for the first time. I remembered rule number 9. Lights may flicker. This is normal. Do not try to fix them. So I didn't. But I stood up just to be ready. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it had all night. At exactly 12 a.m., the motel fell deathly silent. Not just quiet, silent. Like the building had been vacuum sealed. The air changed too. It felt heavier. The kind of stillness you only feel inside an unmarked grave. I turned to the cameras. Monitor 1, the parking lot, showed a car that hadn't been there earlier. A black sedan, lights off, engine idling. No one inside. At least, no one visible. Monitor 2, the hallway, was clear. Monitor 3, the front door, showed nothing unusual. I stared at the clock, waiting. 12:38 a.m. A soft knock echoed through the office. I turned slowly toward the door. The knock came again. 3 times. Light, polite. I glanced at the camera feed. Nothing on monitor 3, no one at the door. Rule number 4 hit me like a cold slap. If you hear knocking at the office door and no one is visible on the camera, do not open it. My hand was already halfway to the doorknob. I backed up instead, sat down, focused on breathing. The knocking stopped. 10 seconds later, the phone on the desk began to ring. No caller ID, just an old black rotary model that looked like it hadn't been used since the last century. Its chime was shrill, unnatural, like a scream forced through a metal pipe. I froze. Rule number 2, if the phone rings between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., do not answer it. Let it ring. It rang and rang and rang 23 times. Then silence. I leaned forward, head in my hands, trying to steady my nerves. When I looked up, one of the monitors had changed. Monitor 2, the hallway, now showed room 3's door slightly ajar. No one had gone in. No one had come out. It had just opened. I checked the time. 2:13 a.m. 2 minutes. Rule number 3, at 2:15 a.m., you must knock 3 times on room 3's door. If someone answers, walk away immediately. I didn't want to go out there, but the rules weren't suggestions. I grabbed the flashlight from the drawer and made my way into the hallway. Every step felt like I was descending into something I couldn't see, something that could smell my fear. Room 3's door creaked as I approached. It was cracked open maybe an inch. Warm light spilled from inside. I raised my fist and knocked. 1, 2, 3. There was a pause, then a voice soft and delicate, like a child's whisper. Come in. I turned and walked away. Quickly, I didn't look back. I didn't run. Running felt like it would trigger something worse. Back in the office, I closed the door and locked it. I looked at the monitors again. Room 3 was now dark, door closed. No one in the hall. The black sedan in the lot was gone. 2:25 a.m. I had survived 2 hours, but the worst was still ahead. The clock's red digits ticked toward 3 a.m. I hadn't sat down since returning from room 3. My back ached, my legs trembled, but I didn't dare break posture. I kept my eyes on the monitors. All was still, but stillness wasn't safety. Not here. 2:59 a.m. I opened the drawer beneath the desk. Sure enough, taped to the underside was a small brown envelope. Not sealed, no label. I left it where it was. Rule 10 said not to take it until dawn. Instead, I did what rule number 5 told me to do. Leave a key on the desk at exactly 3 a.m. Take no key from the tray. The key tray held the usual set, rooms 1 through 10. Room 6's hook was still empty. I chose room 4's key, it didn't matter which, I assumed, and placed it on the counter at the stroke of 3 o'clock. Nothing happened. I waited. 30 seconds passed. A minute. Then, ding! The service bell on the front counter rang. I hadn't seen anyone enter. No sound, no door creak, just the ding, like an invisible hand had pressed it. I looked up, and there he was. A man stood at the counter, perfectly still. His suit was out of fashion, gray, boxy, 1970s style, but pristine. Not a wrinkle, not a spot. His skin was too pale, like he hadn't been in sunlight for years. No shadow clung to him, even under the flickering ceiling light. His eyes weren't quite right. They were too large, too black, like empty inkwells. He smiled, slowly, stiffly, as if mimicking a human expression he'd only seen in photos. Room 6, he said. His voice was deep, flat, emotionless, but it echoed slightly, like there were more mouths than one behind that voice. I swallowed hard. My throat was dry. Rule 6. At 3:33 a.m., a guest may enter asking for room 6. Tell them it's under renovation, even if it isn't, especially if it isn't. I glanced at the clock. 3:33 a.m. Exactly, I forced a smile. I'm sorry, room 6 is under renovation. It's unavailable. The man didn't blink. His head tilted slightly to the left. The smile didn't leave his lips, but something behind his eyes shifted, like his face was a mask and something underneath it stirred. "I always stay in room 6, he said. I shook my head. "Not tonight." He leaned in. I could smell something metallic and sour, like wet coins and rotten milk. "There is a woman in that room," he said softly. "I left her there. She belongs to me." I felt the air chill. Then he smiled again, more widely this time. Too wide. "Maybe you'll do instead." I stepped back. My hand reached under the desk instinctively, but I found nothing except the cold wood of the drawer. His eyes flicked downward, to the key I'd left. He stared at it for 3 full seconds. Then he straightened, adjusted his tie, and turned. He didn't walk out. He was just gone. The camera feed for the front desk flickered. When it returned, the lobby was empty, and the key I'd left was gone. 3:35 a.m. The air lightened a little. The lights stopped flickering. For the first time in hours, I took a breath that didn't shake my lungs. But I wasn't safe yet, because rule number 8 was still waiting. The silence returned, but this time it wasn't suffocating. It was alert. The air felt like it was listening, waiting. I sat back down at the desk and stared at the cameras. The parking lot was still empty. The hallway looked unchanged. And room 6, always room 6, remained dark. Door barely cracked, shadows shifting behind it like smoke trapped inside a jar. I glanced at the clock again. 4:12 a.m. That's when I heard the footsteps. Slow, steady, deliberate. The kind that weren't trying to sneak, but trying to be heard. They echoed through the hallway on the monitor. I leaned forward. A figure turned the corner. It was a man, late 40s maybe, dressed in a flannel shirt, jeans, boots. Nothing unusual, except for the thick crimson trail running down his left arm. Blood soaked his hand and dripped to the carpet behind him. He walked toward the office, calm, almost casual. I panicked and grabbed the drawer handle. Rule number 8, if a guest checks out before dawn with a bleeding hand, do not acknowledge it. Simply wish them a good day. My instincts screamed to help, but I remembered the rule. The door creaked open and he stepped in. We locked eyes. He smiled faintly. Not creepy, not fake, just tired. Like he'd been through something and made peace with it. "Checking out," he said, voice low and hoarse. I nodded, heart pounding. "Hope you had a good stay," I managed. He didn't answer. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small white slip, his key card, and slid it across the desk, leaving a faint smear of blood. Then he turned and walked out the front door without another word. I sat frozen until I heard a car engine start. On the monitor, his truck pulled out of the lot and disappeared into the fog. The carpet beneath the desk had no blood trail, not a drop. I waited. 5:41 a.m. The clock ticked too slowly. I made coffee. It tasted like cardboard and regret, still better than sitting in silence. 6 a.m., dawn's first light broke through the blinds. I nearly cried. I dropped to my knees and reached under the drawer. The envelope was still there, yellowed, dry. I pulled it loose and opened it. Inside was a photograph. A group of people stood in front of the Redwood Motel. 5 of them. The man who hired me was one. Another was the bleeding guest. One woman had the same dead eyes as the room 6 man. Another young man looked almost like me. But that wasn't the worst part. The caption on the back read, "Redwood staff, night shift, class of 1981. My stomach flipped. That couldn't be right. I wasn't born in 1981. My parents hadn't even met then. Taped to the inside of the envelope was a small folded note. "If you're reading this, you followed the rules. That's the only reason you're alive. Don't stay. Don't come back. Not even once. You survived, but the motel doesn't forget. Neither does room 6. Take your payment. Get as far away as you can. And if you ever hear humming, close your eyes." There was one last thing in the envelope. A stack of $100 bills. Old, worn, but real. A lot of them. I left the motel with the sunrise at my back and the note clenched in my fist. I never went back. I moved 3 towns away, got a day job, started over. But I keep the note in my wallet and the photograph buried in a box in my closet. Sometimes I hear humming when I'm half asleep, and I shut my eyes tight until it fades. But every now and then, I dream of the Redwood Motel, of a door that never stays shut, of a man in a gray suit, smiling with too many teeth. And I wonder, did I really survive, or did it just let me go?